And Mr. Speaker, it is important that this House takes into consideration that the National Identification Authority has failed to issue any Ghanaian citizen a Ghana card in any district NIA office. And so it is not the fault of the Stubborn Academy that we've not been able to register our SIM cards. It is not the fault of any Ghanaian that they have not been able to register SIM cards.
Hello lovely viewers, welcome to yet another exciting edition of Let's Talk Ghana here on Studios 2 Television. This show airs every Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays on Studios 2 TV, live on YouTube as well as on Facebook. On today's edition of the show, the Supreme Court has finally released the written judgment on the James Gyakye Quayson May 17th ruling. Up ahead, we get reactions from the minority in Parliament who have described the judgment as disappointing while also giving their final verdict on whether or not they will approve of the Chief Justice nominee, Her Ladyship Gertrude Torkornoo. We also get sneak peek from the NDC, the opposition party, as to whether or not they will appeal or seek a review of that particular decision. And much later, the minority again are alleging that the Speaker of Parliament's SIM card has been blocked despite him registering it fully. What are the details? We'll get into that shortly. Plus, infighting already set in the camp of the New Patriotic Party as a flag bearer aspirant Kennedy Agyapong and Frank Annoh-dompreh, who's the majority chief whip, begin salvos, the trading salvos. We get into all of these details and more here on Let's Talk Ghana. I will return shortly. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ghana, and we're starting from the Apex Court, the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, because they released judgment, written judgment on the May 17 ruling, which affirmed the Cape Coast High Court's decision to annul the processes leading to the election of James Gyakye Quayson as Member of Parliament. The minority, that's the NDC MPs, they've been reacting to that decision by the Supreme Court and the reason which based on Article 94(2)(a) of the 1992 Constitution. Now, here is the member on the Appointments Committee and Boko Central MP Mahama Ayariga, first off expressing disappointment on the part of the justices of the Supreme Court, and then drawing conclusions that they will, despite all of these concerns, approve of Chief Justice nominee Gertrude Torkornoo to become the next Chief Justice of the country. Here is Mahama Ayariga.
The facts of the case, not disputed at any time, are that Quayson, at the time of being sworn in to become a member of Parliament, had successfully renounced all allegiances to any other country, and his allegiance was to only the Republic of Ghana. Fidelity to the text of the Constitution of Ghana would have dictated that the controlling provisions in the resolution of the dispute are the words "qualified to be a member of Parliament," quote and unquote. Disappointingly, a professed textualist like our CJ nominee abandoned the text and chose to read into the text of the Constitution a replacement text, quote, "qualified to file nomination papers to contest for election as a member of Parliament." She read this into the Constitution, whilst the Constitution was dealing with qualified to be a member of Parliament. Instead of fidelity to the text of the Constitution, which the CJ nominee professed as a preferred approach to constitutional interpretation, she succumbed to what we believe was a flawed precedent set earlier by the Supreme Court in the ex parte Zaneto case. That is the Republic versus High Court, General Jurisdiction, Accra, ex parte Zaneto Rawlings, Ashite and National Democratic Congress Interested Parties, number 2 of 2015 to 2016, 1 Supreme Court Ghana Law Report, page 92. If even we admit that there should be some housekeeping matters at the point of filing nomination papers. That should be the appropriate province of legislation and not judicial enactment. What they did was to enact laws, the Supreme Court, not to interpret the text of the Constitution of Ghana. James Gyakye is gearing up to contest the by-election in Asin North, which has been brought about by the Supreme Court's decision. In that regard, we, the members of the Appointments Committee representing the National Democratic Congress, NDC, will not withhold our approval of the Chief Justice nominee by consensus. We will not withhold our approval of her by consensus. Her CV reveals a person of considerable experience, having served as a judge from the High Court to the Court of Appeal and ultimately at the Supreme Court. Women who have acquitted themselves should be given opportunities to occupy key national offices. Even as we disagree with her jurisprudence, we find her qualified to occupy the high office of Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana.
The minority there, and so essentially killing two birds with one stone, raising concern to the decision of the Supreme Court, but still maintaining the position to affirm the nomination of Gertrude Tokonu to the position of Chief Justice. The NDC have been reacting as well. Abraham Amaleba is the Director of Legal Affairs. I put a number of questions to him as to whether or not the party will seek a review of the ruling by the Supreme Court. He also shared thoughts as to the written judgment as made public by the justices of the Supreme Court. Here's what he told me.
So, good afternoon to your listeners. Before this judgment came out yesterday, we had already filed an application at the Supreme Court seeking for extension of time to enable us to review the decision. And so you realize that the rules require that you have 30 days within which to file your review. And so because of that, we have filed for extension because the judgment came just yesterday. So we don't have the full complement of the 30 days. And so this application will be moved on the 22nd of June for us to have the full complement of the 30 days to enable us file for a review. So this is what I can tell you that we have done so far from our end.
And so based on that, is it looking more and more likely? You've seen the judgment, and I want your thoughts on it as well, just briefly.
We have a number of challenges with the judgment. For instance, one, the judge or the court refused to deal with Section 20 of the People's Representation Act, which says that the time for qualification is at the time of election. How they arrive at the time for nomination is mind-boggling, because in Zenato's case, which they used, the Supreme Court's attention was not averted to the PNDC law, which is 284, Section 20. But in this case, lawyers for Judge Jackson, Question, had averted the Supreme Court's mind to Section 20 of the People's Representation Act. The question now is, why did the Supreme Court fail to deal with that law? Why didn't they analyze that law? Why did they dodge that law? So for us, that could be one reason why we will go for a review. There are two more others, but this is just one of the reasons.
Abraham Amaleba there is the Director of Legal Affairs of the NDC, providing a lot more context. We're just going to stay in Parliament a while longer, because you will recall that we had a conversation here on Series 2 about the SIM card blockages and its attendant challenges for a lot of Ghanaians. 8 million SIM cards, 8 million plus SIM cards, which have been blocked. We spoke to one of our technical hands, Marge here, who was raising concerns, asking for an extension. Well, it would interest you to know that the Speaker of Parliament, SIM, has been blocked, and he went through the registration process. The minority now, it was almost looking like we're basing all of today's show on the minority, but they are demanding that the National Communications Authority and the National Identification Authority, along with the Communications Minister, appear before Parliament to answer questions as to why the Speaker has registered his SIM and yet the number has been blocked. Sam George is a deputy ranking on the Communications Committee. He made a comment on the floor of the House.
We should have had this briefing today, if possible, because we are talking about over 8 million SIM cards that have been disconnected, including even the SIM card of the Speaker of Parliament, not the deputy, but the Speaker of Parliament himself. His official SIM card was disconnected, even though it was registered in the name of Parliament of Ghana. We have judges, we have lawyers, we have doctors, MPs whose SIM cards were disconnected. Even me, my SIM card was disconnected. Our SIM cards were disconnected. But I'm the honorable member of Parliament for Ningo Pram, elected member, and the elected parliamentary candidate for the NDC again.
And the leader of the Stubborn Academy. And the leader of the Stubborn Academy.
The dean of Stubborn Academy. Mr. Speaker, no. The Stubborn Academy is insisting that the National Identification Authority must provide us Ghana cards. Because, Mr. Speaker, it is important that the minister briefs this House, even if possible today, because people's livelihoods have been affected. And people's money they use for their transactions has been stuck. You understand me? On their cards. And Mr. Speaker, it is important that this House takes into consideration that the National Identification Authority has failed to issue any Ghanaian citizen a Ghana card in any district NIA office since December 2022. And so it is not the fault of the Stubborn Academy that we've not been able to register our SIM cards. It is not the fault of any Ghanaian that they have not been able to register SIM cards.
And so there you have it. Obviously, someone was just saying that Ghana is such an interesting place. You can't never be sad in this country. The Speaker of Parliament, the number 3 gentleman, like he likes to call himself, SIM, has been blocked. Who are you not to have your SIM card blocked? When we return, we'll get into infightings within the governing New Patriotic Party, and also the Peace Council is wading into the Nogokpo versus Ajinasare conversation. It's one that I'm sure will pique your interest. Stay with us. We'll return shortly. You're welcome back to Let's Talk Ghana here on Studios 2 Television. This show airs every Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. And always leave a message for us on the various stories that we bring to you. Trust that we'll do the reading for you. Before we went on that quick break, I mentioned that there appears to be infighting within the governing New Patriotic Party. Well, Frank Annoh-Dompreh, Majority Chief Whip, he addressed the media yesterday over salvos that is being thrown by Asin Central MP and aspirant for the flag bearership position of the governing New Patriotic Party. Remember that the NPP has opened nominations for all individuals interested in wanting to contest to become the party's next flag bearer. So far, 10 individuals have picked up nominations seeking to become the party's next flag bearer. One of them, Kennedy Agyapong, has been taking a swipe at Frank Annoh-Dompreh, who had cause to respond the claims by the Asin Central MP. Here's what Frank Annoh-Dompreh told the parliamentary press corps yesterday.
My good friend, the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong, making all manner of allegations against me. But specifically, he's saying that I am referring to him as not fit for president, not a presidential candidate. In fact, he's one of the senior members of this House that I respect. And on many occasions that we've had tense moments between the two sides, he's intervened. And so I have a great deal of respect for him. When he visited my constituency, I paid for the venue, I hosted him. I spoke very highly of him, even though later some of his boys skewed and took part of the video and said that I have endorsed him against a known fact that I am, all out for Dr. Baumia. But what I want to say is that it's never true. I can never describe him as somebody not fit for president. When he came to his home, I listened to him carefully. If you listen to his messages, One of the message lines were that he raised issues which are either rumor or things that people are raising against him, and that he would deal with it. One of the things he raised was that people are saying that he's not fit for president. And so he raised it himself, preempted it, and dealt with it. Me, I'm sitting in mine somewhere, as will be described. Only for me to hear now I'm not the punching bag. Me being punched by him because in his own estimation, he has heard that somebody says I had said that he's not fit for president. I think it's most unfortunate. First of all, if you hear an allegation, you should have at least called me. Now, I have to speak to you through this medium because several efforts to reach out to him has proved, unfortunately, futile. I feel a bit hurt. I feel very hurt because for anybody who knows me, I don't do politics of attack. Even my opponents, I don't attack them. How much more somebody who is one of our own fold. So I will challenge my good friend. Normally I won't do this. I want to challenge him. If there is anybody that I have spoken to say that he is not fit for president, he should mention the person's name. Then again, I will also advise him. He should leave me. I'm just a small fly, concentrating on my whip job in this difficult parliament. He shouldn't distract my attention. And then he should focus on his presidential campaign bid. And leave me alone. Let me concentrate on my whip job. I have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of job to do. Ordinarily, I would not have responded through this medium. But I hear the thing has gone far and people are making... I've received more than 100 calls today. People are asking me, do you have a beef with Ken, agyapong, and all that. You want to be president. I didn't ask you to go and contest. So he should simply focus on his president.
That's Frank annoh-dompreh and Sawamadrejiri MP there, and it promises to be interesting going forward what the primaries, the presidential primary of the governing New Patriotic Party would be like. But let's just end with a conversation that has been on social media that's been fast and organized in relation to this. It has to do with the brewing controversy between Nogokpo Traditional Council. Now the chief says that they didn't issue any of those directives, but the shrine appears to have a beef with Pastor Janasare, Paris Chapel, amongst many things. And you know the backstory. I'm not going to try and get you all of that. The National Peace Council has waded into that. They've issued a statement. They issued a statement yesterday. Let's just walk you through that statement and seek to get some bit of understanding. That statement is coming on your screen right now, and it reads that the National Peace Council has noted with concern the current impasse between Archbishop Charles Ajanasare, the founder of the Paris Chapel International, and Nogokpo traditional authorities. The attention of the council has been drawn to statements that have been made by some religious personalities in the country regarding the same issue, recognizing the fact that the impasse, if not quickly addressed, may have consequences on peaceful coexistence and religious tolerance in the country. The National Peace Council, in pursuit of its mandate to facilitate conflict prevention, appeals to the Nogokpo traditional authorities and Paris Chapel International to remain calm and not give in to provocations as efforts are being undertaken to address the situation. The council calls on all those who've been affected in any way by the statement or the stalemate to exercise restraint and circumspection in their comments and pronouncement on the matter, and that the council further urges the media and all other interested individuals, or all those who make statements on the matter, to exercise maximum restraint in their narrative. We want to inform the public that the Volta Regional Peace Council has begun the process to engage the parties for amicable redress. The council concludes by respectfully reminding Ghanaians of how far we've come as a nation, living together as one people for many years. Reverend Dr. Ennis Edujimfi is the chairman of the National Peace Council. And so there you have it. Hopefully there can be some resolution to all of this. That's our show for today here on Let's Talk Ghana. A lot more for you on Friday when we return. I am Eric Mawina Egbeta. It's always a pleasure to come your way with this interesting show. Many thanks for watching.
Studios 2 TV. The truth is here in your eyes.